I don't know, man. I don't think it's working. I think we need to cancel the podcast.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, what are you talking about?
Okay. So remember last week how we were talking about the prototype idea, right?
Right.
And we took all of the ideas or the different creative block ideas and put them up against the prototype idea, and they like basically all passed, like check, check.
Yeah, dude, like 99% creative block free.
Right. That's what I thought. So I decided to put it into practice, specifically perfectionism. And it felt weird. I felt unnatural, like I didn't know what I was doing, like I couldn't create anymore. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Dude, oh my gosh. Slow down. Chill. Like, why don't you walk me through what happened?
Okay.
Hi, my name is Sharon.
Hi, my name is Ben.
And this is the Creative Odyssey Podcast.
We're here to talk about the creative process.
The good,
the bad,
and the ugly.
But more importantly,
we're here to create together.
Whether you're a creator, a dreamer,
or just curious about the creative process,
explore with us
as we figure out what it means to be a creative
and build a community
that celebrates the creative journey. Let's get started. All right, so Ben, walk me through what happened, like actually.
Okay, so I was creating this video idea that I'd come up with quite a while ago, and I mentioned it last episode where I wrote it all out. I was super excited to do it. And then the next morning came and I ended up like not doing it or I didn't feel like doing it. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to create the prototype, right? That's all I need to do. I just need to start shooting it. So marched in there, started shooting it. And then I finished a shot and I'm like, okay, I got to reshoot that because I missed that. And then I thought prototype. No, I got to do that again. Wait, no, I can't reshoot that. Okay, I'm going to go to the next shot. And it was like every shot that I did, I felt like this, okay, I need to go back and reshoot this, but no, I shouldn't do this. So like this, it was this weird tension and like it felt so odd and unnatural. Like I didn't know how to create anymore almost.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really weird. Like my mind was rejecting the idea of creating the prototype almost. It was really strange. I was like so used to doing things a certain way that changing it up made me feel incredibly uncomfortable, I guess it was.
So what you're saying is, even though we went through all the scenarios we could think of, and we made sure the concept of creating the prototype works in those scenarios, you still managed to mess it up?
Somehow, I guess so.
All right, dude. Why don't we make this today's topic of the episode and actually break this down because we got to help this guy out.
That's for sure.
So if you're having issues with this process, then that means that this is going to be issues that other people are going to try it out. And the creative process is pretty normal to everybody, common to everybody. It makes sense, but I think we might have some digging deep into what this actually really looks like when you're actually sitting down or getting down to creating. So, I want more details, Ben. Go deep down.
Okay. So think of it this way. I was sitting at my computer and I was designing this new idea. Yes, this is awesome. Oh, this is going to be so good. Let's go.
Wait. Are you sure you can pull it off?
Well, I think so, but maybe I should plan more.
Remember the time you messed up the project? What makes you think this will be any different?
Well, I've learned a lot since then. Plus, I've got this new way of doing things.
New way of doing things, huh? People are going to judge you, man. Why even risk it?
I cannot let fear of judgment stop me. This is what I love. I love creating. I need to do this for myself.
Sure, but what if it's not perfect? It's not worth showing.
perfectionism is just holding me back. It's better to create something imperfect than to never create at all.
Okay, what if it fails? What if you waste all this time and it turns out absolutely terrible?
Well, failure is just part of the process. Each failure teaches me something new. The important thing is that I keep creating and I keep learning.
Okay, but what if the idea is too big, too grand? You don't even know where to start.
I'll break it down into smaller steps. Starting small can lead to something amazing.
What if you get bored or lose interest halfway through?
Well, I need to remind myself why I'm passionate about this project, and I'll keep motivation in my mind. It's going to help me stay focused.
Oh my gosh, you overthink everything. You'll spend so much time planning and doubting that you'll never actually create.
I'll set deadlines for myself to keep moving forward. I'll allow myself to make mistakes, and I'll learn from them.
Sure, but you're often too tired to be creative. What about your energy levels?
I'll schedule regular creative time and take care of my well-being. Creativity needs nurturing, just like anything else.
But you're not really an expert at this.
Well, true, but everything is figure-outable, remember? I can learn as I go and ask for help when I need it.
Sure. Are you actually gonna do this? You're going to fail again and it will be so embarrassing.
You're right, it could be embarrassing. Maybe I should think this through just a little bit more.
Finally, you see that? You're not even ready, man. There's no rush. Just wait until you're more prepared.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's probably better that I wait until I'm just a little bit more confident.
Exactly. There's no harm in waiting. You don't want to make a fool of yourself.
Okay, I'll wait. Maybe I'll revisit this idea in a little bit when I feel ready.
Good call, man. You save yourself a whole lot of trouble and embarrassment.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe next time.
Proud of you. Dude, that sounds dramatic.
Right? Like, back and forth. Like, we really need to figure this out.
All right. Okay. Let's do it. What are your thoughts?
Okay. So in my spare time, I like to, I guess, kind of figure out new ways of doing things, become better with the way I think. And there's this one particular person that I've been listening to. His name is Joe Dispenza. And he is more about holistic change. But as I'm listening to what he's saying, I'm like, oh my goodness, this completely applies to what I was going through, or it applies to what every creative goes through, especially when they're working on changing things up. And really, you can apply this to anything in life, but specifically creatively, I think this is something that Joe says that really resonated with me. And it's basically about changing. So if you think of how I did things while I was creating that video and how I'm so used to doing things a certain way, changing that up made me feel incredibly unnatural. It felt completely unfamiliar. And this is what Joe Dispenza says about change. The hardest part about change is not making the same choice as you did the day before. All right? The moment you decide to make a different choice, get ready because you're going to feel uncomfortable. Exactly as I did.
Right.
It's going to feel unfamiliar and there will be some uncertainty. You're stepping out into the unknown. You're doing something differently. Your body loves the familiar unknown. It loves the same enjoyment, the same suffering, and the same unworthiness, the same I'll take care of that tomorrow feeling. And the body has literally been conditioned to be your thinking mind. So how I take that is the way that you're feeling and all your emotions is dictating what you're doing. Instead of your thoughts saying, I need to do this, you're like, I feel like I should go do that.
Right.
Everybody knows exactly what that's about.
Oh, yeah.
So your body has been conditioned to be that way for years, and it's really running the show. So the moment you step into the unknown, your body goes, wait a second. I'd rather feel X, or I'd rather feel guilty than this feeling of the unknown because I can't predict the unknown. So I'd rather feel this familiar feeling. The body starts influencing the mind, and we start to hear this chatter in our head that says, start tomorrow. Tomorrow is a better day. You really don't feel like this today. Why don't you just have one piece of cake? You're a loser. It's your parents' fault. It's your ex's fault. It's your culture's fault, whatever it is. If we accept, believe, and surrender to that thought as if it's the truth, that reaffirms the old patterns, the old circuits in our brain. That thought will lead to the same choice, which will lead to the same behavior, which will create the same experience, producing the same feeling or emotion. A lot of people will say, well, this feels right to me. No, that feels familiar. And that's what's so interesting about this, and what was so like lightning bolt to me. So he finishes up by saying here, crossing the river of change, going from the old self to the new self, there's literally a neurological, biological, hormonal, or genetic death of the old self. So really the old circuits in your brain need to be more or less removed, and you need to create new neural pathways.
Wow. That makes so much sense.
Right? It's really crazy.
I remember a quick example of, I remember as you were mentioning that, I was, I think, 11 years old. I was in swimming classes, and my coach gets us up to the diving board, and it's the highest one there, and makes us jump. And I remember standing at the edge of the diving board, super nervous of jumping. I still remember it to this day, like exactly. And then this guy, all he does is touch my back with one finger. I freak out completely, like just falls off.
Really? So his one finger pushed you?
Yeah, he just put, and then I belly flops and completely goes unconscious. Somebody had to jump in to like grab me from actually
What?
sinking. Yeah, safe to say I didn't swim until I came to US.
Wow.
Like I was.
So how many years was that? Like that you were afraid to get in the water?
I would say so. That happened around 11 years old. I think I started swimming again 30.
Wow. 21 year or 19 years?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, because the familiar feeling was that
You can't go in the water.
No.
Yeah. Because you're going to get hurt.
I don't even think I actually sat down and processed what I was thinking. It was simply swimming. No, not happening.
It was probably so ingrained in your mind that you probably didn't even go through the thought process.
No.
You just thought swimming, and it was immediate. No.
I mean, it was a traumatic experience. So
Sure.
all these feelings that I had at that moment was so valid that I didn't even sit down to process it.
Mm.
And now, again, like as a child or whatever, it sounds so stupid, but I think the familiar feelings were telling me, no, don't even think about it. It's not gonna happen. Like, you need to protect yourself.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That makes so much sense. And also, like, talking about the creative process, like so many things like coming to mind why I stopped something and I never picked it up again. And many times I've said, it just feels right.
Yeah. You know that feeling, that rush.
Yeah.
That's like, it feels right. I should or shouldn't be doing something.
Right.
That's what's so crazy to me, is because I think that so many people feel that, and that is the right way, and they'll do whatever that is, even if it's completely contrary to what they actually want to do. So again, back to the mind versus the body.
Yeah.
So I've gotten that feeling of, it's almost like a dopamine rush when I decide to whatever it is. So as an example, I will have a thought to do something that's maybe a little bit difficult or may take a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I can do that tomorrow. I can push that off till the weekend. After all, I'm working today. I should relax after I'm done because it's been a stressful day. And I feel this wash of like comfort or dopamine or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And because it's so familiar for me to think, oh, I can just push that off tomorrow. That feeling of I can do this later. That's the familiarity. That's the feeling that I'm feeling is the I can do this later. And everybody knows that.
Right. And in that moment, you don't question, like, is this actually true, or can I do more? Because this is one of the things I think about people who are successful. They do a lot of things in their day, and they work a lot of hours and all these kinds of things. And I've always wondered, how do you get to the point of mindset where you can push your body, mind, and even spirit to get to the point of like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I'm going to do this now, and the way they look at projects or tasks or whatever, it's not, I don't think I can do this because it's more like, okay, so I need to get this thing so I can do this. All right, let's get to this and this and this, and then they break it down and they do it.
Right.
Right? And oh my gosh, this is crazy. Yeah.
I think because that the way that they do things, like you just explained, this to this to this, that is their familiar. They're pushing things off till tomorrow, or they're
not, you mean?
What's that?
They're not pushing things.
Right. I'm saying the actual thought of pushing things off tomorrow is unfamiliar to them.
Yeah.
Like that'll make them feel uncomfortable, and they want to get this done because that's what they've practiced so much. So it's really, I think it comes down to practicing getting yourself into the unknown and starting to feel comfortable with that unknown.
Okay. That's
what's really like, I don't know how to get there or how to tell other people to get there because it's going to be different for every single person. As a creative, like your process, I think is so unique to you. It's important for people to like break that down and figure out what's what.
All right. So does Joe Dispenza, like, since you are like done the research on this subject, is there science to back this up?
Yeah. So he's actually done a lot of different tests and science and research and stuff. And I'll read a little bit more from his stuff. Now, this does go a little bit deep into the neurological functions of our brain. This really happens to each of us, but we really don't consciously think it,
right.
Or we really honestly don't think about it much at all. So work with me here because it can be a little bit mumbo jumbo-y, I guess. But okay, this is another quote from him here. Every thought produces a biochemical reaction in the brain. The brain then releases chemical signals that are transmitted to the body where they act as messengers of the thought. So the brain releases chemical signals into the body, and those chemical signals are messengers of thought. The thoughts that produce the chemicals in the brain allow your body to feel exactly the way you were just thinking. Essentially, when you think happy, inspiring, or, joyful thoughts, your brain manufactures chemicals that make you feel joyful, inspired, or uplifted. Also, when you anticipate a pleasurable experience, the brain immediately makes a chemical neurotransmitter called dopamine. We're all very familiar with that. Mm-hmm. This turns the brain and body on in anticipation of that experience and causes you to begin to feel excited. If you have a hateful, angry, or self-depreciating thoughts, the brain also produces chemicals called neuropeptides. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is a neuropeptide there. And the body responds to this in a comparable way. If you feel hateful, angry, or unworthy, your thoughts literally become matter when the body responds to a thought by having a feeling. Isn't that weird? Wow. So you think chemical, and that chemical is the physical expression of your thought, and it flows into your body. So a little bit more. So when your body responds, your thoughts literally become matter when your body responds to thought by having a feeling. This initiates a response in the brain. The brain, which constantly monitors and evaluates the status of the body, notices that the body is feeling a certain way. And in response to that bodily feeling, the brain generates more thoughts that produce corresponding chemical messengers, and you begin to think the way you're feeling. This creates feeling, then feeling creates thinking in a continuous cycle. And this loop eventually creates a particular state in the body that determines the general nature of how we feel and behave. We call this the state of being.
Huh.
So it's this constant feedback loop. Think,
Right.
feel, think. And when we're constantly in this familiar loop, we're in this state of being. And that's how, like, I've heard the phrase, you are what you do. So basically, you think, you feel, and you want to do something, and you do that repeatedly in this state of being, and you do that over and over and over and over again.
Right.
That's your life, and that's who you are.
Whoa. The immediate example I get comes to my mind is when you're about to go on vacation, no matter how early you have to wake up, no matter how long the journey is, you are super excited.
Mm-hmm.
On the way back, if you have to wake up even like an hour early, you hate yourself, you're so grumpy, you're not looking forward to it. And as a matter of fact, like I feel so many things goes wrong on the way back, or even just like the slightest thing would like annoy you and make the journey such a painful process. This makes sense. So feelings become the reality and vice versa. I mean, it's the same thing as if you feel negatively about something, you're gonna start noticing all the negative things that support that thought process.
Yes.
Right? Like, for example, if you don't get a job, for example, you're thinking, well, I'm not good enough. Like, I'm never going to get a job, all these kinds of things. Like, it just keeps, and you keep finding, well, the interviewer didn't like me, or didn't like what I was wearing, or the interviewer made a weird face and that they were angry at,
Yeah, all that stuff. It reaffirms the way that you've been thinking anyways. So again, it creates that loop.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my interview didn't go well because I'm not worthy to do this. So if the last one didn't go well, then the next one's not going to go well because I am just naturally unworthy. And so you're living in this state of unworthiness.
Right. I mean, even looking at creative processes and creative people, right? At the end of the day, it's very hard to create something that is absolutely unique and original because we are all pretty much just copying each other. Like, that's what the creative process is. However, every time we see these artists doing some unique stuff that you're like, whoa, this is cool, what's the next thing that comes to your mind? I will never be able to create something like this.
Yeah.
My art would never be in a gallery, or
I could never do that like them. They're amazing. I don't have that talent.
Instead of breaking down and saying, okay, what did this artist actually do? How long has this artist been in this creative odyssey? Listen to an interview from the artist and say, hey, what was that early process like? And they will, most likely, often than not, they will tell you, well, it was absolutely horrendous. I sucked, and you talk to any successful YouTuber, for example, and they will always say my original beginning stuff are horrible, right? And
yeah.
and but yet we just look at when they got popular, where we look at the best works of them, and then we compare ourselves, and then we just go down the
right. We're like we're at the beginning stage, and they're wherever, leaps and bounds farther ahead of us. And we think that we need to be leaps and bounds farther than we are.
Right. So, real quick, we want to just stop and talk to you guys and say, do you agree with us? Do this make sense to you? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Like, we would love to know if this seems weird or not. Before we go any further, I want to go back to that. The skit we did where we talk about the thought patterns. Can we just agree that it technically those thought patterns are kind of negative?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
All right. The other thing is also these are ingrained in us.
Mm-hmm.
They are almost behaviors that are kind of unique to us. The voices are very unique to us. Even
Mm-hmm.
though we will break them down even more, even though some of these things are very common to any creative person or just any human being for that matter,
Right.
I think the origin of them are going to be unique to individuals. So, how about we kind of break down the thoughts you have, thoughts that came into your mind, the negative ones, and we'll try to like figure out what that is actually.
Okay. So I guess one would be I'm not good enough.
Self-criticism.
All right.
All right.
One that I always think is that it has to be perfect.
Your favorite, perfectionism.
That's right. Yep. What if it doesn't work out?
Fear of failure.
Okay.
All right. What
Fear of
else?
failure. One failure means I'm always going to fail.
Absolutely not true. Overgeneralization.
Exactly. Like I was mentioning before, I get one bad job interview. It means that I'm always going to be a bad interviewer. Overgeneralization.
You want
Absolutely.
another great example from my history of life on Earth?
Yes. Let me hear about your history of life on Earth.
I was leading worship or singing in a Christian worship band. I think I was 15, 16 years old. And I was playing guitar and I was able to like simultaneously sing. But I was really good at keys at the time. And I was like, why don't I try keys and playing keys and singing together? And the worst part was it was one of those inter-school events where girls' schools and boys' schools, like there were multiple schools of people, and I went to all boys' schools, so to have girls come into a school was a huge deal,
Oh my goodness.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm leading worship, and it was horrible. I could not, for the love of me, coordinate playing keys and sing. And it was an absolute flop. And I didn't try to sing and play keys until I was 32.
Because of that singular experience.
I genuinely believe that I was not able to play and sing at the same time. I thought there was no way. Now, like at 32, I actually tried it again and I realized, oh wow, I actually can do it.
You can do it,
And
right?
I've done it a lot since then, and I still do.
It sounds like, and I'm sure you are not alone in this at all, but it sounds like you have traumatic experience in both of your examples, the swimming and now the public shame of making mistakes on instruments and singing is horrifying.
Right?
Any singer would hate to be in that.
Let alone in front of girls.
Right, exactly. Especially when you're single, my goodness.
Right. Like at 16, you want to impress the girls and get a girlfriend and all that stuff. And yeah, that was a huge disaster. All right. What else were going in your head?
Okay, so my new creation has to be perfect or it's completely worthless.
So it's almost like black and white thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And again, back to the whole perfection thing.
The thing is this, right? Like, as we go down this list of things, what baffles me is like, I never stop to think about this stuff.
Right.
Because as you were saying it sounds so ridiculous.
Doesn't it? But we do it all the time. Like it just automatically happens.
And we justify it too.
Yeah. We justify it because those neural pathways that I was just mentioning, all that stuff that happens in your mind has been worn so heavily by you constantly doing that. We never even think about it. We skip from I feel this way to I know that when I don't do it, I'm going to feel familiar and that's fine with me. So we never even get to the point where even if I were to say this next one, this is going to end in disaster. Even if I were to say that, I would never tell myself, well, Ben, you're just catastrophizing. Like there's no, like I would just say this ends in disaster. I'm not going to do it because I've thought that way so many times.
I mean, I think this applies to, I love talking about jobs and interviews because even if you're in a job and you want to like get a promotion, the act of getting a promotion is simply applying for that promotion or applying for that position.
Mm-hmm.
Half the time, so many people don't even apply because they are stuck in this state of mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
They won't even find out if they will get the job or not. They've already decided based on previous experiences that they will not, and therefore they should not apply.
It's going to end in disaster. I'm going to get fired. Nobody's going to like me. All that stuff that you just think in the back of your head without even really reviewing your thoughts. It's just automatic. Everyone will hate this.
So now you're a mind reader.
I love this one. Everyone will hate this. You're reading everybody's minds. Really? That's awfully arrogant. Like, really, when we break it down that way, think of it that way. Everyone will hate this. Really?
But the
So you
thing
know
is,
everybody's mind.
But if somebody said that in that moment and I was in right there in that same mindset, I would be like, yeah, dude, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even bother.
You'd accept it. Yep. It's even more interesting thinking about it that way. Is like, even if it's not your own thing that's going on and somebody else says it, it's just this common acceptance of like, oh yeah, that's a normal reaction.
Yeah. Wow.
So we're normalizing all of this stuff. We're normalizing these negative thought patterns without even realizing it too.
Fun.
I'll never be as good as them.
This is my absolute favorite. Very, very near and dear to my heart. Since the day I was born, I felt like I was. Oh my gosh. The amount of. Oh man. The amount of times I thought I have to be tall enough to get a girl. Like, you know.
Wow.
I would even try asking girls out sometimes because I'm like, well, I'm too short. And that guy is tall enough, so.
Constantly comparing to everybody else.
But I mean, then again, like, same thing happens with music. Same thing happens with any creative thing. Comparison, man. That's okay. Cool. What else?
There's only one way to do this.
That's interesting. I feel like most creatives, I feel like they think outside the box.
I agree with that. Yeah, most of them are not going to be stuck in this.
However, there are little nuances and things that we do believe this way. I'm failing to think of an example. Well, I mean, I think in the creative process, people sometimes start thinking outside the box. I hate that phrase, but they get the idea, start thinking, and now they have this perfect thing, yet I think that stops there, and then they go into the rigid way of thinking. Now I got to do it this way. I got to do it this way. We put our outside the box thinking into the process, which is inside the box.
That's a good way of saying it. And that's interesting too. Like that kind of is what I experienced as well. Feeling that, okay, I had to do it this way. There's only one way for me to do this, to create my video here, and that's repeatedly make all of these different shots so I can later pick during edit whichever one is the best. So I guess that is kind of like it's a combination of perfectionism and rigid thinking.
Well, in woodworking, if you don't have the right tool, what do? Either most of the time, if you're really determined, you figure out a way out. If not, what do? I don't have the tool for this. Either you buy the tool or you give up.
We can go down an entire other avenue with all the tools that we buy because of this.
Whoa, that could be a cool episode. Like, go through our workshops and like tell the reason why we bought something.
Oh, I like that a lot. So this tool is because of this project or because of this feeling that I needed to finish this project or do whatever it is.
Oh my God.
Or if we go one back up to comparison, I need this tool because this woodworker has it.
Oh my God. The age of sponsorships. Every time I see a Festool being used, I salivate. I
I
literally.
loved, dude. I've never had a Festool. I feel like they are the Apple
Oh
of
my
the
gosh.
woodworking world. They're extremely expensive, but they're very good.
It's a Germans. It's a German product,
Yeah.
and
But they
it's
know it too.
yeah,
And everything's proprietary. All their
right,
connectors are
yeah,
proprietary, so you have to buy it from
and
Festool, just
super
like you have to buy
expensive.
it from Apple.
Oh my
So
gosh.
expensive.
But every time you see an influencer woodworker using that, like there's a part of you like, can I buy that?
I think I can buy it.
Can I afford it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't need to feed my family.
Right. Oh, and if I don't buy this, this will segue right into our last point here, which is I'm a fraud if I don't
Oh,
have a Festool.
imposter syndrome. You see, I almost the funny thing is in the woodworking world, on a tangent going here, if you have the Festool, most often than not, you've made it as an influencer woodworker.
I do feel like that is a status symbol. I really do. It's sad that it's come to that. There is a element of truth in if you do own a Festool, that means that you have the means to buy one, or usually you have the means to buy one,
Yeah.
or you're not feeding your family, one or the other. And usually, if you're a woodworker and you have the means to buy a Festool, that means that you're like a really good woodworker and have like high end clients,
Yeah.
or you have this great YouTube revenue by being a big woodworker. So
Oh my gosh, dude, that's
we could go
hilarious.
on and on about woodworking on YouTube. I love all different types.
Oh yeah, we love that world.
yeah.
It's just like pointing out the fact that like
Yeah.
I remember one guy I follow. He bought a Festool jigsaw, and it's a jigsaw. Like how good could it be? And he showed how he was doing all these curves, cutting, and it looked so smooth. Dude, I fell in love with that jigsaw.
Yeah.
Like I don't need that. Like I have a Ryobi jigsaw and it works perfectly fine.
I think I have the same one.
Right.
Yeah, it works great.
And yet, because of the way the handle is set up and the way it looks, I bet I could do the same thing with mine. It's a little bit hard, maybe, but like, dude, that's when I was like, I need to get Festool. Like I've been programmed. Festool.
Right. Well, bringing it back to the ingrained thought patterns, I kind of feel like that watching all these woodworkers with their Festools, every one we watch, the more and more we watch them, the more our minds are wearing this path in our brain that's saying, it's okay to get one.
Yeah.
This is what you need to be a good woodworker. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
We are being influenced.
yep. That's right. That's right. So, I think I want to kind of get back to, so we've talked a lot about how these negative thought patterns work and what happens in our brain. What are we going to do to like stop them and overcome them?
Okay. So we're not talking about anything new here, right? All these things, self-criticism, perfectionism, fear of failure, all these negative thought patterns or creative blocks, really, they are common to pretty much any creative. But I truly believe the origin of it, of these symptoms or these blocks, are going to be very unique to every single creative. So, I shared examples of me playing keys and singing. That's when I dealt with fear of overgeneralization. Like, I will never be able to sing and play. Now, overgeneralization could begin from somewhere else to you, for example. Where the origin of that is very unique to everybody, but all these creative blocks are very much common to everyone. So I think the biggest solution is this. You need to analyze where your origins of all of these creative blocks or negative thought patterns which were engraved in. Where did it start? Right? So to do that, the simplest thing you can do is simply writing down what your creative odyssey really looks like. Okay, so that means, for example, that skit we did when Ben got the idea of like, oh, I want to go do this. You want to be cognizant of what that looks like. Write it down. Now, this is going to be a bit painful.
It's going to be unfamiliar.
Very. All familiar for that matter.
It depends who you are.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, whatever it is, write down your whole process from ideation to the prototype, for example, right? So, you got the idea and you like, and pay attention to the thought process because that's the key. Write them down, and then after you write all of these things or negative thought patterns, circle them and write familiar or ingrained negative thought patterns. Why do you need to do that? Well, to change our thought process, which is to say the prototype state of being or mind, to do that, you need to be aware of what is familiar
Yep.
and differentiate that familiarity and saying, this is familiar, but this is not right. Now you need to be ready to combat these negative thoughts and say, okay, the moment I get a perfectionism, I need to be ready to say, well, I don't need to be perfect. I'm just creating the prototype. Everything that we talked about last episode about creating the prototype, the prototype set of mind has to come through, and you need to like be ready to combat them, right? And as you write these negative thought patterns, you'll remember where they originated. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? Was it my dad telling me I suck at it? My mom telling me I suck at it? Or even my best friend? Or favorite girlfriend? That stuff will last forever. So remember, right, who told you what and when and why it happened. And validate it. Is this still the same? Should this be a truth?
Right. Are you thinking a valid way that, or a way that you were thinking that was valid way back when?
Yeah.
It could have been valid there. But 10, 20, 30 years later, is that really still valid? Ask yourself that. And this might lead to some serious reflection. It might take you a while to figure out where all this
Might
is.
need to go to counseling too.
I love therapy. I mean, I
good.
know
Yeah.
it's great because it gives you a new perspective
Oh my
on the
gosh.
way that you think. I personally love my therapist. He's great. But I think the other thing too about this, so you find these negative thought patterns and you do whatever, you write them all down. Once you are aware of them, you're much more likely to notice them as you're going about your creative process. But another thing that you can do is before you even start the creative process is train yourself. And what I mean is think of a weightlifter. Think of one of those Olympic deadlifters who lift those huge weights off the ground, right? They are going to practice that day in, day out, every day before they perform in the Olympic stage, right? So one way to think of doing this, because you're training your mind, is to envision wherever you're at and you know that this thought is going to be coming along. You experience that thought just in your mind and you think, okay, I know what that thought's going to feel like. I'm going to think this way. Your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and actually just practicing it in your mind. So if you continually do this and practice this, say, okay, I know that this thought or this negative pattern of thinking is going to come along. I need to think this way now. Do that every day. Do that multiple times a day, especially if it's something that is a habit that you're very aware of, that is very difficult to change. Just practice it. Practice it in your head.
Yeah.
Just
Until
sit
it
there.
becomes familiar.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So that weird feeling that I was getting when I was creating something by not being a perfectionist,
Right.
I need to continually practice that.
Yeah.
I need to constantly say, that's fine. This is not perfect. I'm moving on.
Yeah.
That's fine. This is not perfect. I'm moving on. And I got to keep telling myself that. I probably got to tell myself that a lot for a long time before it makes a real difference because of how ingrained these thoughts are.
As you were saying that, I don't want to mention who said this to me most of my life, but The saying that those are excuses, right? I don't think those are excuses. Those are real scenarios that made you come to a conclusion. You're not crazy.
Mhm.
That needs to be said. We are not mocking anybody. Like you and I, the conclusions we came to originated from some situation. So all we are saying is these are not excuses. These are behaviors that we've taken and carried around with us for most of our lives. And we are saying, okay, dude, it's cool that you've done it. Just know that this is not helping you. You need to just like unload these things and adapt a new way of thinking and combat. I love this. It's really cool. Really would love your opinion. Even if you tried it, please share with us, because this is so near and dear to us, and I'm pretty sure you as well. Because this comes from a place of forgiveness too. Like, because I think when I realized this, it was hard, man. It was a lot of like, I can't believe I did this all this time. Imagine, the regret then comes. Imagine the amount of progress I would be able to make if I didn't think like this.
Yeah, and if we keep thinking that way, we could easily spiral.
Right.
Just keep going.
So this is more of a way to, I don't know how that's perfect. I didn't even plan that.
It was meant to be.
Create to heal, right? Because it's about that, right? Because as a creative, we've said this over and over again, as a creative, you're made to express yourself through art and your creativity. And every time you create a prototype, you get somewhat closer to becoming healed. Right, heal from all this past crap that you've carried around, all the traumatic stuff, and there is no reason for you to go on in that inner dialogue of just spiraling down negative crap. So really, please let us know what you guys think. If you can share with us your experiences, that'd be fantastic, because I bet that could help somebody else and us as well. This was a really cool episode.
I think we went really deep into it, and I think there's so much more to be discussed about it, especially with the way our brain thinks. And I am just so interested in figuring out more and more of this. So definitely expect more in future episodes, but we really appreciate every one of you watching this.
Oh, shall we? I forgot to talk about this with you, Ben, but should we let them know that we're going to be having guests coming on to our podcast soon?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's better time, right?
Well, sure. Yeah.
So we actually are planning on having a lot of guests coming up in the future. A very diverse group of creatives. And I'm so excited to like kind of dig in with them and their processes, and maybe even how they've overcome things, and just how they look at creativity.
Well, it'll be great in the fact that, if we're getting people who respond to this in a text or something like, or a comment or something like that, that's very condensed. But imagine having an individual here who can really go through what they've experienced. It's going to be fantastic. I feel like it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that excites you. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and keep exploring your creative odyssey. Take care.
Bye.